Hello, this is Lady Boulay, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your thumbs up, for your comments, and thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. And yes, we are commanded to love one another, whether we want to or not, or whether we agree with each other or not. Today, I want to take a closer look at Kamala Harris's mother. Shyamala Gopalan, and I'm doing the best I can with her name, was an Indian biomedical scientist at the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory whose work in isolating and characterizing the progesterone receptor gene stimulated advances in breast biology and oncology. She was the mother of Vice President of the United States and now presumptive Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris, and her sister Maya Harris, a lawyer and political commentator. After receiving her BS degree in home science in India, she applied to the University of California, Berkeley, and was accepted. She earned a PhD in nutrition and endocrinology at UC Berkeley in 1964, but it was here at UC Berkeley that she met Donald Harris. In the fall of 1962, at a meeting of the Afro-American Association, a students group at Berkeley, whose members would go on to give structure to the discipline of Black Studies, proposed the holiday of Kwanzaa, and helped establish the Black Panther Party. And the Black Panther Party was established in nearby Oakland, California. So according to several sources, Black Studies, Kwanzaa, and the Black Panther Party all originated from the activism that was going on at UC Berkeley, and that was well known at the time that was an activist campus. And Kamala's father was a part of this activity. No matter how much some of y'all want to say he didn't do anything, he wasn't FBA, he did. He was a part of it. And before I go any further in this video, I want to point something out. I respect people who identify as FBA. I am an American descendant of slavery. My family's census records go back all the way back to the 1870s when they started keeping census records of Black people. Because before 1870, you were just somebody's name on a plantation. So I am a bona fide descendant of slavery, but I do not identify as FBA, as many American descendants of slavery do not. But I do respect the people who do. But you can't go too far with this. You can't go too far. Just because you're an FBA, that's not a license to hate on other people. So I just want to point that out. This man helped to establish the Afro-American Association at Berkeley. That was one of the places that they first started Afro-American studies. And now you see all these Black guys with PhDs on TV. They have a PhD in African American studies. But her father helped establish it, and her mother was a cancer researcher. So these are serious people. No, they're not FBA, but they have still made a contribution to this society for Black Americans, because whenever you have a Black professor at a PWI, this can be Black American, Caribbean, or African. Most of the time, and I know this from my own experience, they will mentor you. They will advise you. They will try to help you because they understand the environment that you're working in, and they know that in order for you to be there in the first place, you are deserving. You are a capable student, and they do what they can to help you get through it. And an activist like her father would definitely have been one of those kinds of professors. And as a cancer researcher, she has done a lot towards the diagnosing and treatment of cancer. So her parents put in the work. And I said all of that because I wanted to give some background. But now I want to focus on her mother. According to Donald Harris, Late in the fall of 1962, he spoke at a meeting of the Afro-American Association, a students' group at Berkeley. After that talk, he met Kamala's mother. She was the one that stayed behind to learn more about what he had been talking about. Of all the black students, now this was all black, but the Indian woman was the one that stayed behind to learn more about the civil and social unrest in the United States relative to black people. Now let me unpack this a little bit more. This was a foreign student about 8,000 miles away from home. Now I don't know if she had an Indian community at Berkeley or not, but this was the group that she seemed to have felt more comfortable assimilating into. India had won its independence from Great Britain in 1947, but what we have learned about colonizers, they never leave. They just call it something else, and they do a little shifting around, but they never leave your country. So a student from India, which was colonized by Great Britain, and a student from Jamaica, who had been colonized by Great Britain, probably did have something in common. But this is who she fell in love with, and it's not hard to see why she would have liked him. I'm sure he was very nice looking at that time. She defied her parents because they were expecting her to come back to India. But she married this man in the United States and didn't even tell her parents. And didn't take him to meet them until 1970 something, when she had those two children. So she really took a chance with her own life. In other words, she took her life into her own hands. And I'm sure that took a lot of courage for someone that far away from home in this strange of a land, because Kamala's mother could not pass. Kamala could pass more than her mother. If you haven't seen anybody in your neighborhood that looks something about like that, then you haven't been in a lot of neighborhoods of descendants of slavery. But anyway, I'm going to say that she married against her parents' will, because she's marrying outside of her race, or she's marrying outside of her ethnicity and her culture. So her parents had to not be pleased about that. And his probably weren't either. People sort of miss that when you're talking about black people. They assume that black people always want their children to marry non-black, but that's not true. That is not true. So she married him. It didn't work out. I believe they divorced in 1971. So after her marriage broke up, she didn't run back home to India. Why? Probably because her parents were still mad at her, and because she had these two little girls that she knew were going to be treated like they were black in the United States and in India. Kamala's mother moved the family to Canada when Kamala was 12. Her mother had taken a research position at McGill University and was also teaching at the Jewish General Hospital in Montreal. Kamala lived in the city for 5 years and graduated from Westmount High School there. Although she spent part of her teen years in Canada, most of her childhood was actually in the United States. She was born in Oakland, California, and then moved to Quebec with her mother and younger sister after her parents divorced. Later, she returned to the United States, attended Howard University, and earned her law degree at the University of California. So while she did live in Canada during her adolescence, she primarily grew up in the United States. Although her parents divorced, her father remained active in her life. This is what Kamala writes about her father. My father, like so many Jamaicans, has immense pride in our Jamaican heritage and instilled that same pride in my sister and me. We love Jamaica. He taught us the history of where we're from, the struggle and beauty of the Jamaican people, and the richness of the culture. According to a 2021 article, Harris and her father, Donald Harris, a former economics professor at Stanford, are on good terms. Now, he is an emeritus professor right now, which means he's retired, but he can still use the title Professor Emeritus of Stanford University, which means he left on good terms. But he did get upset with her because back in 2020, somebody asked her about whether or not she had ever smoked weed. And she said, "Are you kidding? Half of my family is Jamaican." And her father didn't like her referencing his family as weed smokers. But he was just being a father. He didn't want her out there saying things like that about the family. And the media tried to make more out of it than what it was, I believe, because from all indications, she's on good terms with her father. But it appears that it was her mother that shaped her ambitions and instilled pride and self-confidence in her daughters. So she gives her mother a lot of credit because, again, this is an immigrant mother, really. She's an immigrant. But she's very intelligent. She's very accomplished. And she did an outstanding job. And I know that people are going down to the cesspool, draining the swamp, going everywhere they can, pulling down cobwebs and everything, trying to smear Kamala's character. But it speaks for itself. It's not a whole lot you can say about her. So she liked men. She dated men. She dated black men. But most of the complaints against her coming from black people have to do with her politics. And so that's what she's going to have to answer to for black people. Kamala's mother did get a chance to get a glimpse of things to come. Here she is with Kamala at her college graduation. I'm not sure if this is her BS or her law degree. And then here she is. This is Kamala being sworn in as District Attorney of California. And Mom is holding a book. I'm not sure what kind of book it is, but she's looking up at that judge like, you better do this right. Kamala's mother died of colon cancer in Oakland on February 11, 2009 at the age of 70. She requested that donations be made to the organization Breast Cancer Action. Later in 2009, Kamala carried her ashes back to India, to the southeastern coast of India in the coastal Indian Ocean waters. So she took her mother back home for her final resting place in the waters of the Indian Ocean. And Kamala gives respect to her mother, as well she should, and she has lived out her mother's dreams. Now, for anybody who might be tempted to come on here and say, oh, you just want us to vote for Kamala, I don't care who you vote for. I'm going to vote, and I'm going to vote my conviction, and it won't be Donald Trump. But I'm not trying to convince anybody to vote for anybody. You vote your conviction. But there are people who want this kind of content. And I speak on things to do with the black community. She is running for president. She claims African ancestry. She has assimilated herself into this culture. And there are many black Americans who are supporting her. So that is why this is relevant to my channel. So I'm not trying to tell anybody who to vote for. That is your business. But there are people who would like to have this kind of content. So I'm doing this today. And so have a good evening.